If you see something which is bad, changing with your hand, changing with your words, or criticize it, or changing with your heart. Just don't like it with your heart. This is the lowest level of your iman, which is your faith, your connection to God. This is a prophetic tradition telling us that we should be committed. So it's through our behavior. But the nature of this behavior is based on something which is, I know my responsibility, but I also know my limits. This is where we have the very deep understanding. And the last concept which is coming here in Islam, which is also very important, is about tawbah. Tawbah is to acknowledge the fact that you are not going to be perfect. That to be saved is, I'm trying to pray God. I'm trying to have a dialogue, to communicate and to tell him about what is in my heart, or to be always remembering him. But it's also sometimes to come back to him and to ask him to forgive me. This tawbah has also conditions where you come with sincerity, that you don't want to start again what you have been doing. So you talk to him. And this is why we have in the Quran, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. If my servant, if my worshipper is asking you about me, I'm very close. And I respond to the call of the one who is calling me when she or he is calling me. So I'm close to this call. I respond to the need. I respond to the call if you respond to my call. God is calling us, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, all you who believe, come. So it's a call, and then you call him to help you to be close to him. So this dialogue, it's a two-way process. This is why you come with a tawbah. And the tawbah, there are conditions, and something which is very important. When you come with your sincerity, when you don't want to start again, you should be convinced that God is forgiving you. So there is something which is a very positive take on this, which is, yes, you are weak. Yes, you are going to do things that are wrong. But at the end of the day, if you are doing things that are wrong, if you are weak, but you acknowledge this, that you try to come back, and with your deep sincerity, with your heart, you don't want to start again, this is where he's going to forgive. He's going to remove this from you. So there is a very positive message, which is, don't nurture a sense of guilt, but nurture a sense of responsibility married with a sense of humility. This is where you get the very essence of salvation in Islam. So let me say something here which is quite important. The starting point is really about this, a concept of human being. And then what constitutes a human being? And how do we morally qualify? Because salvation is about a framework, an understanding of morality, ethics, applied ethics in your life, when you reform yourself, but also when you reform what is in your society and what is around you. Now, to come to the last point, this is where the acknowledgement, as you understand this, the acknowledgement is there is one God and you are going to be saved if you acknowledge this. While there is something which is quite important in the Quran, which is God is going to forgive all the sins. He's able to forgive everything except one, which is to associate, to worship another deity just with him. So this polytheism is something which is really not accepted in Islam. And when we read the Quran, very often in the understanding of what was perceived as Christianity is, there is a monotheistic tradition, because Christianity is a monotheistic tradition, and understood by Islam as Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book. So it's quite clearly in this family of monotheism from the very beginning, but the understanding is the starting point should be acknowledging the fact that there is one God. Now, when you say this, that salvation is coming from this acknowledgement, that this relationship with the one, and then your behavior, and then the way you deal with your innocence, and then with your conscience, and then with your behavior, and then with the people around you, that this is all the rules that you have in the religious tradition. So what about the other people? For example, once a young Muslim came to me and told me, look, what is going to be the fate of Mother Teresa? She's a dedicated Christian. She is serving the poor people, but she's a Christian, and her acknowledgement of one God is not exactly the same as the Tawheed, the Islamic Tawheed, because there is something which has to do with the Trinity. And then there is the acknowledgement of the last prophet, which is part of this relationship with you enter Islam by saying there is one God and Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his messenger. So what about them? So when you speak about your own, the requirements of your own salvation, there is something which is quite important. What is said in your tradition about the people who are not from your religious community? Because if you think that you are the only to be saved, and then no one is going to be saved because it's only within your religion, there is where you have to take a stand in your daily life. And this is right that some, atheists are agnostics, are saying I have a problem with religious minds because I have the truth, and by definition if truth is on my side, if salvation is on my side, you are lost and you are on the wrong side. And this is why it's quite important here to come to three things, and let me just go straight away to this in my conclusion. Yes, we have in the Quran, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ, that the religion, the very essence of this relationship with God is Islam, is the religion of Islam. And then you have وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَا يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. So if the one who is just looking for another religion which is not Islam, this is not going to be accepted by God, is not going to be accepted from him or her. And this is why it's quite important that we have verses like this. And you have verses like this, and this is why we understand that there are different interpretations. For some today, the literalists, it's quite clear. Anyone who is not a Muslim is going to be lost, not saved. Salvation is not for the one, because they read the Quran and they read that verse in something which is quite clear. Inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam means the only accepted religion by God is Islam. Islam meaning now our religion. But we don't have only in the very old classical Islamic tradition. This is not the only way. You got Sufyan al-Thawri, for example, and others in the Islamic tradition saying, no, be careful. Islam is the generic religion throughout the history of prophecies and messengers coming to the world. In fact, Judaism was, when Moses was sent, peace be upon him, was the Islam of that day. And Christianity with Jesus was the Islam of that day. And the last revelation with the Prophet, peace be upon him, was the Islam, and the last message called Islam. So in fact, Inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam, that the only accepted religion is not the name of the religion, is the specific relationship with God. Why are they able to say this? Because in one verse of the Quran, you have something which is quite interesting. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِإِبْرَاهِيمَ أَسْلِمْ قَالَ أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ وَإِذْ قَالَ لَهُ, not لِإِبْرَاهِيم, it's in the verse before. وَإِذْ قَالَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ أَسْلِمْ قَالَ أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Meaning by this that God said to Ibrahim, Aslim, be a Muslim, be a servant. And he said, Aslamtu, I am now acknowledging you as my God and the only God. So the word Islam is already there in the relationship between Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and God. Meaning by this that Islam was Islam before the last revelation was called Islam. In fact, in this generic term, we have something which is a specific relation. Meaning by this that it's not something which is an exclusive, narrow understanding what the verse is saying. And we have to talk about this because there are discussions among scholars on this definition. And then when you go for another religion, which is not the Islamic religion, is something which is also perceived as the generic understanding. The concept is broader than only the revelation. So having said that, the relationship and the understanding is we have to either, for some, it's very clear that it's only Islam and Muslims of today that are going to be saved, and others are saying no. It's about three things that are